Hey, welcome to this episode of the Smart Leader Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I'm really excited to have one of my favorite entrepreneurs on the show today. Welcome, Chris Ducker.
Well, hello there. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I feel like there should be some kind of fanfare or something. Like
we don't need fanfare.
Like maybe Scott, when you're editing this, like do some clapping or some random applause or something. That would be really cool. I'm super excited to have you on today. And, you know, what I usually do with these is talk a little bit about how I know you. And then I kind of give you the minute to have the formal bio. So is that cool?
Totally. Let's do it.
Fine. So I met Chris way back in 2017 when he popped up on my newsfeed promoting adverts for an event that was coming to London, all right? And it caught my eye for a couple of reasons. One, because the event was in London and was only going to take me like an hour and a half to get to, instead of the usual 12-hour flight to like JFK and then, you know, wherever from there. And two, because he was a Brit and I was like, oh my goodness, there is another British person out there doing what I'm doing. This is amazing. So I got very, very excited and also a little bit nervous about buying my ticket for Youpreneur. But I did, and obviously you guys have heard my Youpreneur episodes subsequently where I've talked about the learnings that I had from Youpreneur and the amazing experience that I had. But when Chris actually rocked up at Youpreneur in November 2017, I feel like I'm in a time machine right now, taking you all back, right?
Take us back.
When he rocked up in his Union Jack waistcoat and started talking about the rise of the Youpreneur and building a personal brand that was, quote, future-proof, I was hooked, like genuinely hooked, because here was somebody that was thinking what I was thinking, that wasn't just thinking about making money online, you know, and kind of doing a couple of things, making a quick buck here and there. But there was actually thinking about building online businesses that were long-term, that were successful, and more importantly, were sustainable. And that was really, really different from anything that I was seeing out in the online entrepreneurial space at that time. So that's the kind of impression that I got when I first met you. When you rocked up onto that stage and you were talking about these things, I was like, right, okay, I'm hooked from there. And then obviously I went on and I kind of explored over that weekend. I participated in your mastermind sessions and I got to kind of see the cogs of your brain and the way that they worked. And it's fantastic. We'll explore it on the episode today. But then I joined the Youpreneur membership community. And I have to confess, I'm like the least active participant ever. I'm really sorry.
Hey, you said it. I didn't say nothing.
I'm like the least active participant. And I am, and it's not because I don't like the content. The content in there is absolutely incredible. It's just that day to day we get busy, right? We all buy these memberships where we're like, I love the community, love the people. I'm just not great at showing up and actually doing all the things all the time. But it's been one of the most valuable resources in my business this year, because actually the one really powerful thing that I get from it is that every week we get an email from you. Right? And it's like, hey, Jess, what did you do this week? And I think, oh, well, I did these things. And in my head, I imagine that I'm replying to you and that you're like, that's a really cool thing. Well done. So that's kind of what I think when your name pops up in my inbox. And I realized that, you know, when we talk about formal bios and stuff, it can be really easy to talk about people's achievements. But I'm like, well, what does this person actually mean to me? Who are they to me? And that's who you are. You're the guy that pops up in my inbox. You remind me to do things. You keep me accountable, you know, albeit on my terrible sense of accountability. And also, you massively, massively have inspired some of the big changes in my business from November 2017 right up to this point, right up to nearly June 2018. So, you know, massive thanks for that. But also for everybody listening thinking, that's great, Jess, but, you know, what does this guy actually do? What is it that you do?
I do what you just said. I mean, I keep people accountable. I mean, that's not the only thing that I do, but ultimately, and I want to go back to what, you know, kind of jokingly saying I'm a terrible member, I'm the least active, and so on and so on. I will say that I reckon probably a good 30% actually of the people who join the Youpreneur community never post inside of the forums. In fact, I don't guess it. I know it for a fact because the numbers never lie. I can see it on the back end of our website, but I can also see them opening the emails, clicking on links to our workshops and our keynote archives and our blueprints and everything else that we've got within the community to help them build, quote unquote, the business of you, right? So even though they're not necessarily using the member forums, they're certainly utilizing the community membership by learning through our material, taking action on that material, opening those emails, getting the boot up the backside from Chris once a week and all that kind of stuff, because that's what they need. That's what they need out of it. So I think ultimately what I do is, I at the core of what I do is I help people become future-proof by building the business of you. And the business of you is, it's a model that is highly profitable. It has all the opportunities in the world that you could possibly dream of. And it enables you to build a business based around you, your expertise, your personality, and the people that you want to serve. And that's what I do day to day. I also run, though, many other businesses that I've ultimately removed myself from. I invest, I advise, and, do all that fun stuff as well. But what I do day to day is Youpreneur. That's my thing.
And that's huge, because I think, one of the things that people struggle with, including myself from time to time, is that actually we find it really difficult to maintain that belief that just being you can be profitable. And I think it's really difficult for people, especially if you are somebody who's left the corporate world and, you've been an employee for many years, or even you've had your own business for a few years and it's not producing the income that you want all of the time. It's funny because we automatically assume, well, we're not enough, when the reality is that we're probably not being ourselves often enough. What do you think?
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I mean, this is where, quote unquote, imposter syndrome starts off, right? Yeah. And I will say, I have an inner circle mastermind, which is called the Round Table Mastermind. Clearly, I am King Arthur. I have my 12 knights around me. But no, I'm serious. There are 12 members of the mastermind. They are the knights. I'm King Arthur. And these are the people that I work with the closest. Out of all my clients and students, these are the guys that get me the most amount of time throughout the course of any one calendar year. And, these are all people that are six-figure entrepreneurs. Some might be a little further along the line than others. Some might already be seven-figure entrepreneurs. And in our current group of 12, we have 3 people with seven-figure businesses, and the rest are striving to get there. But it never ceases to amaze me, even in the shoes of people like that, how much imposter syndrome can creep in. Yeah. And it's a scary situation for a lot of people because, you might have 10, 15 years under your belt in whatever experience or whatever industry rather you're in. But the fact is that if you don't think you're good enough to serve up what you're serving to the people that you want to help, then there's a massive problem there. And so what I like to try and do is kind of just kick some sense into these people and tell them that, you got 10, 15 years under your belt in any industry. People are more likely today, more so than ever before in the history of business and life, to pay to access that experience. And that is why it's so important that you continue to provide the solutions to the problems that you're serving up for those people in whatever way you're doing it.
100%. 100%. And the thing that I love about your message is that you are adamant about this concept of future-proofing.
Yes.
And this is something I find really interesting. And so in all transparency, we were recording a podcast episode for Chris's Youpreneur FM show this morning. So I've been up fairly early. Chris is, kind of chilling in the afternoon in the Philippines. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but we were recording this episode and we were talking about this concept of, future-proofing and how you'd been in the industry, just this industry since 2012. That's quite a long time. That's 5-6 years now of experience just in this one industry alone, doing effectively the same thing.
I think it's interesting. It's like I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. I still own and operate businesses that have hundreds of employees, but I have nothing to do with the day-to-day running of those businesses. What I do online, I started blogging and podcasting in 2010, but I got really serious about the personal brand and the Youpreneur angle in 2012. And so it never ceases to amaze me. People are having the same problems with doubting themselves, with being concerned about what they do and how they do it. They don't want to upset the wrong people and all that sort of stuff. They're having the same issues to deal with now than they did 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I started my sales career. That's how old I am, and actually even more than that, 27 years, I think, in the sales game. So, I mean, there's the big kind of problem here is that a lot of people don't think that they should be the ones to stand up on whatever that pedestal is and to preach and to say this is possible and this is how you can do it and this is how you can make a change. I mean, here's my thing. Here's my angle. If you have X amount of experience under your belt and through that experience that you can help people that are within your perfect customer kind of realm, right? If you know that you can help those people and you decide not to do it through lack of confidence or for whatever other reason, you're actually letting those people down. And at the very same time, you're doing a disjustice to yourself by not providing those people an opportunity to learn from you and what you stand for.
100%. And this is something that I say on the podcast quite a lot. So I'm actually glad that you've reinforced that because, I think it can be quite selfish for people not to share their expertise. If you know that somebody's struggling and you won't reach out and say, hey, there's a solution for that problem, then actually you're letting them suffer. And that's not what we generally set out to do when we become online business owners. We want to help other people. That's why a lot of people get into it. Yes, we also want to make money. We want to be profitable, those kinds of things. But we also want the warm and fuzzies that come with that. And so if you're not willing to step out and say, actually, here is how you can be helped, free or paid, then you do have a problem and you leave people to go and buy from other people who perhaps don't have the same expertise, who perhaps haven't made all the same things happen.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree with you. I mean, and I think that's the reason why the Youpreneur business model, even if you're not an entrepreneur, you don't identify with being an entrepreneur, even if you're just in sales or if you're in management or if you're in HR or whatever it is, there's something unique about you that makes you you. And at the very core of that, that's where the future proofing begins.
And let's talk about that because that's really interesting. The fact that it is inherently about you, because, and if we look at different people online, we are all very different. You have, you're kind of iconically British, I would say, or quintessentially. Maybe we should use a really British word for that. You've built this kind of quintessentially very proud British brand. Yes. I've built a brand primarily, if I'm honest, around, general faux pas and my Chihuahua. Those are the kind of things that make us very different. Inherently, though, we both have these areas of expertise that mean that we can help people. We communicate them in really different ways. And so in some senses, people can look at you and go, okay, well, how can I possibly be successful? Because I'm not like Chris Ducker. So how can people be successful if they're not a mini you?
Well, that's the thing. You don't do me, do you? You know what I mean? Like, be what you're about. Like, people want to do business with other people. And I love that you believe in that so much as well, Jess. I mean, I have that hashtag proud Brit, right? Yeah. And I sport Union Jacks on a regular basis in some way, shape or form. Mm-hmm. People know that I enjoy whiskey and bourbon, not to the point where I'm a raging alcoholic or anything, but they know that, a couple times a week, I'll sit down and I'll look at my drinks cabinet. I have a good collection and I'll actually tweet or Instagram stories, pictures out, and I'll say, hey, it's Wednesday night, it's Friday night, it's Monday night, whatever it is. Every night's a good night for a scotch, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll say, which one do I go for? And I give them 3 options. I'll pull out 3 bottles from the cabinet. Which ones do I go for? People, tens, hundreds sometimes of people get back to me. So, oh, you've got to go for the Lagavulin, or this time go for, whatever it is. They want to follow along on the journey. They want to see how much of yourself you're going to share. And I'm not talking about that whole kind of, transparency, authenticity thing. But ultimately, if you want to be successful building a business around you and what you stand for, you've got to show people the real you. I call it marketing like a magnet.
Oh, that's, I love that.
It's in the book. I talk about it from stage all the time. So what you want to do like a magnet, you want to, and here's a tweetable, You want to attract the best and repel the rest. So what you're doing, you can see I spent a lot of time in America.
I know. I'm like thinking about that. I was really impressed. I'm like, my mouth is sat here like, oh my God, damn it. Why don't I have that kind of thing?
But let me tell you, when you spend as much time in America as I have, those little one-liners, they come to you all day long, trust me. So on a very serious note, though, that's what we want to be doing to be crazy successful, to not hear the word no too often, right? You must get to the point of attracting the best type of clients, the best type of audience members, the best type of community members, and at the very same time, repelling the other people away. Because those other people are the people that will never spend a dime or a penny with you. They're the people who maybe on the off chance, if they just happen to buy whatever it is you're putting out there to sell, on day 29 and the 30-day money-back guarantee, they're going to want it. They're going to want it. You don't need those people in your life. You should repel them away. You should get rid of them as early on in that sales process as possible. And so I'm a big believer of just being you. Show people you. People know that I'm a Star Wars nerd. They know that I like playing Lego with my kids. I've had Lego sets sent from around the world to my kids. I mean, seriously, it's crazy. I've had a Union Jack ceramic teapot sent from Canada to the Philippines.
That's amazing.
Because somebody wanted to see me pour tea with it on a live stream. Sure, of course I'll do that. That would be great. Thank you very much. And so I've had bottles of scotch literally given to me before I'm about to go on stage at the summit last year. I had 3 bottles of scotch given to me by attendees last year. It's fantastic.
And this is why Chris was so hyped at Youpreneur. Just going to throw that out there.
I will say I did not have a single drop of scotch at all until it was all over. And then it was me who was in the... Okay, so it was me, it was Pat Flynn, it was Amy Schmidauer, and it was her husband, Vinny. We were in my suite for about 2 hours, the final day of the event. And I think we demolished about 3/4 of the bottle of one of those bottles of scotch. It was a good night.
That's fantastic. And it's that kind of thing, you know, this kind of attract the best, repel the rest. I think it's huge because recently, you know, anyone who has an email list will know we've just been through this GDPR compliance thing. Now, I got a lot of clients who were saying to me, Jess, are you not really worried? Like your email list is really big. What's going to happen if tons of people unsubscribe? And I was like, well, I'm not really worried about it, to be honest. Like, you know, people will unsubscribe if they don't feel like the content's for them, but, you know, it'll be fine. And, you know, we sent out our final GDPR email on the Friday, and I wrote it in the form of a rap to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So if you weren't on my email list and you would particularly like to see the rap, just shoot me an email and I'll send it over.
I must know, did you actually record this? Or was it just...
I did actually record a rap for my membership community. That one hasn't quite gone out yet, the written version.
You must send me a private link if you don't want to share it publicly. I'd love to see that. That'd be great.
Me after a couple of glasses of wine, rapping a lot. I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm definitely too middle class to rap. Like, that is what I realized on watching the recording. I was like, oh my God, like, I can never, ever do this again. So
that makes it all the better.
I know, it's just terrific.
Hilarious.
Maybe I'll do it on stage at Youpreneur this year. You know,
don't do that. Don't do that.
There you go. You heard it here first. Chris is vetoing my rap idea.
I'm denying the rap. For your own good, my dear. For your own good, right?
Well, like, you know, popularity, it just sucks. So it's this kind of thing where you go through GDPR compliance, we sent out this rap, and only 7 people unsubscribed. Now, the list itself is fairly substantial. You know, we're talking, it went out, that was a resend, went out to about 2,000 people who hadn't done anything, you know, with regards to GDPR compliance, hadn't let me back into their inbox. We only had 7 people out of 2,000 unsubscribed from that particular email. And we actually had one person email us and say, and I want to say her name here because it's really important, Chrissy, thank you for your email because you sent me an email saying, we really loved your GDPR poem. And so I sent it to my mum and some other people. And that made my day. Honestly, I got up on the Monday morning, was like, that's brilliant. But it is that kind of idea of attracting the best and repelling the rest, right? When you show up as you, you attract people who resonate with whatever it is that you stand for and who you are, regardless of how eccentric that may seem to other people who are not your people, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that for me is also the, that's the very reason why you should do it. Like the fact that you did that and just 7 people unsubscribed. I mean, I don't know what your open rate was, but regardless of what it was, 7 people, that's nothing. Like you didn't lose any massive portion of your list by doing that. I also did a full-blown re-engagement campaign, full-blown re-engagement. And, I've been very open with the numbers. And, we lost, quote unquote, right? A big chunk of our list. But here's the thing. I've still got well over 15,000 people that are going to be opening my weekly emails. And what do you think the open rate is going to be on that? It's not going to be the standard of 15 to 20% anymore. It's going to be 50, 60% now, because I know that they're ready and waiting for those emails on a weekly basis. So I think, whether it's GDPR compliance or whether it's just keeping, your house in good order, whatever you want to call it, we should always, whether it be email lists or, just the blog content we're creating or the audio content we created for our podcast, there's no point in going off on massive tangents just for the fun of it because you feel like doing that. You've got to be 100% dialed in to what your perfect customer wants at all times. Plain and simple. And, there's been plenty of, like today, I don't know how far we're recording this into the future, but I mean, like today, I'm a big Boston Celtics fan. I'm a big NBA fan. My Boston Celtics got knocked out of the playoffs today. I was very, very upset this morning. Very upset. I mean, to the point of like shouting, like I was shouting. Okay. I was shouting in the house this morning. And when you and I recorded our podcast episode, I could have talked about that at the beginning of the show, but we put things in advance. I was talking about it on social media today. So my followers could, kind of laugh at me and things like that. But the fact is I wouldn't have done it on a show because the broader audience would not have got it. They wouldn't have cared so much. But the people who follow Instagram stories, they want to see that everyday stuff. So I think it's being very, very aware of what you're about and what you stand for, but also understand that there's got to be filters in place as well, because you only want the right kind of people following you at the end of the day.
Exactly. 100%. And I think that's so important that you just mentioned platforms there. So when I came to Youpreneur last year, one of the big things that stood out to me was the fact that nobody was using the same platforms. Like everyone was doing these amazing things all on different platforms. You had JLD and Pat Flynn, who are obviously prolific podcasters along with yourself, obviously. Then you had people who, like Amy Schmittauer, who's a real video buff. Then you had Joanna Penn, who's all about the books and that kind of thing. There is a platform for everybody, and that was really, really interesting to me, making sure that everybody had the platform that suited how they want to show up. Are you somebody who wants to show your audience things in the moment? So, a social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Or are you somebody who likes to batch create? I was listening to JLD saying that he batch created for like 2 days a month. He just sits there recording for like 15 hours a day. And then the rest of the month, he's like, chilled, doing my thing, which is amazing.
And genuinely, I mean, that's the way John lives. That's the way he lives his life. Seriously. And he actually got me into batching many, many years ago. I used to be quite a reactionary content creator. But now I'm a lot more strategic, and I have been for several years because of John, actually. Because when you see your friend, like there's no point at having smart friends unless when they give you tips and tactics that you actually follow them, And I live with the phrase of you never want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to be the dumbest person in the room. I never want to be the smartest person in the room because I want to continually learn. I mean, a leader should continually learn in order to be able to continually lead. That's the way I look at it. And so, when somebody like John says, hey, you should try this, it'll help you become a lot more productive and free up a lot more time so you can spend time with your kids or doing this or doing that. And I'll tell you what, it's been a massive game changer. Something just as simple as saying, hey, every single first Monday of each month is nothing but podcasting. I'm never going to touch my podcast ever except that first Monday of each month. Let's get to work. And I mean, we've been doing it for years and it just works excellently for us.
And it's huge, isn't it? Because like you say, when you bring the smartest people together as your friends, you get all these tips and tricks and, you know, you can learn from them kind of just by osmosis. You're kind of around them and you ask how they do things and they tell you all these cool things that you've never heard of and you're like, oh my goodness, I should do that. But when you are not surrounded by, you know, the Chris Tuckers, the Pat Flynn's, the Johnny Dumas's, the Amy Schmidt-Howes of the world, actually it's much more difficult to find out the real skinny on what they're actually doing, right? And so for me, that was one of the reasons that I attended Youpreneur last year, because I wanted to know what's the real goings on. You know, how does their business really work? What are they actually doing every day? And that was something that was really, really powerful for me. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the kind of purpose of Youpreneur and, you know, how you bring the smartest minds together in the room.
Well, I mean, look, first and foremost, I've been very, very blessed to have, quite frankly, a worldwide network of friends. I mean, I've traveled extensively over the last decade, which has opened up a lot of doors that wouldn't have been opened up if I'd have stayed, you know, at home, put it that way, right? So I should say that I'm not necessarily your average content creator online. I do, you know, roam in very good circles, but, you know, some of that is as a natural byproduct of the work that I've done. And some of it's actually very, very strategic because I want to be able to do things like bring, you know, the CEO and founder of Convince and Convert, Jay Baer, to the UK for the first time ever.
Which is
to come
epic.
And speak, right? Like he wouldn't do that. Yeah, but he wouldn't do that for just another event. He's doing it purely because of the relationship that I have in place with him. Carrie Wilkerson, who is not only a friend, but one of my very closest dear mentors. I've learned so much from her about business and life and relationships and sales and everything. She's going to be our opening keynote at the event this year. And again, I mean, this is a lady that gets paid $30,000 for a 45-minute keynote. I don't have that kind of money to pay her, but she's coming anyway because of the relationship. And, you know, the list goes on and on and on. But I will say, look, this is the thing. It's the relationships that count above and beyond everything else, right? The relationship should be treasured. They shouldn't be used. And I see that way too much. I'm sure you do as well in the online space where people want to get inside somebody else's, you know, email lists, right? So they want to do joint ventures or they want to do that. Oh, let's do this and let's do that together and everything. But please see through it because it's exactly what's going on. They only want what they can get out of you and then they're going to be off onto the next victim. But when you build relationships that really matter, then that's huge. So, I mean, really, for me, this came about above and beyond sort of everything else that I've done over the last sort of 8-9 years. Back in the beginning of next year, when I was starting to write Rise of the Youpreneur, which was my latest book. And I said to myself, you know what? I might want to do a foreword on this one. My first book, Virtual Freedom, didn't have a foreword, and that was fine with me. But I think I might want to do a foreword on this one. But if I'm going to do it, then it's got to be somebody who's living what I'm preaching in this book. It's got to be someone who's living that business of you mindset, that youpreneurial mindset. Who's it going to be? And there was one person that I've gotten to know over the last 10 years that came to mind. And for me, no matter what I did to try and think of other people in case that one person said no, I couldn't think of anyone that I wanted more than that person. Like this was the only one that was going to do it. If I couldn't get this guy to say yes to me, then I just wasn't going to have a foreword. I reached out to him and he said yes immediately. And that guy was Lewis Howes from the School of Greatness. And I mean, we're talking about a guy who has millions and millions of followers online, millions and millions of downloads on his show. He's been on Ellen, you know, X amount of times and all this sort of stuff. He said, yes, didn't even think about it because, again, of the relationship. And so no matter what you're doing, no matter who you're doing it for, understand the relationships are the single most important thing in business. And when I think about my relationships, not just with people like those people that I've just spoken about, but also relationships with my customers, with my event attendees, with my suppliers, with everyone that I work with, whether it's a transactional relationship or not, I put my heart and soul into it. And I think people can see that. And it's one of the things they like about me, but it's not strategic. It's because I believe it's the right bloody thing to do, plain and simple.
100%. And I think, that was one of the things that really stood out for me last year attending Youpreneur, was that you took the time to sign everybody's book, right? Not only did you give everybody a free copy of the book, which was awesome. I read it on the train home. It's amazing. I've been telling people for months, if you haven't bought a copy yet, make sure you go buy one. But you actually sat there and signed all of these books, and there were not a small amount of people there, right? It wasn't a case of signing 10 books and that was your lot. You signed every single person who wanted their copy signed a book, and the line was so long that people were actually handing out wine in the line, which I loved, by the way. Just gonna throw that out there.
I remember, no, I tell you what, that was not the plan, right? The plan, no, seriously, the plan was actually just that we'll have the wine at one side. If they want the book signed, they just have to line up, obviously. If they don't, they just go straight to the wine. Some people went straight to the wine. I mean, it is England, after all. And then some people, and here's the other thing, some other people quite sneaky, right? So they got the wine first, and then they waited for the line to go down, and then they joined. I like that. I like sneaky people like that. That's good. But no, so when I saw the line getting to the point where it was going down the staircase to the next floor, I said to one of my assistants, hey, you better start getting people like wine in the line, otherwise they're going to be upset. And that's what they did. And that's knowing your people and understanding their needs and how to keep them happy. I mean, it's just smart business.
100%. And the fact is that, people had this relationship with you, regardless of whether they were like me, and this is kind of like their first time meeting you and knowing about the event or anything like that, or whether they were people who'd perhaps been to your events before and were kind of die-hard already Chris Ducker fans. People wanted to wait. It didn't matter that the queue was huge. It didn't matter that they were, halfway down the stairs already and that it was going to take at least an hour to kind of get to them. They wanted to wait because they had that relationship with you, and it was really, really important for them. And for me, I was one of these people. I was like, halfway down the weird cylindrical staircase thing, that they got a chance to meet you and that you signed their book and that you knew that they were there, and I think that's huge.
I mean, I'm just lucky.
Yeah, what can you say?
No, seriously, for me, I've always said it. Ever since I started getting active online in 2010, I grew a really, really active, engaged following very early on in that journey. And, there are people that I can literally say to you right now that there are people that have attended my events basically around the world. Like I've had people in New York, I've had people in LA, I've had people in London, I've had people in the Philippines, I've had people in Hong Kong, Singapore, all come to the same events that I put on. And I think that's because they know that they're going to get a great event experience out of me, and that they know I'm going to serve up a good conference, but also it's because of that relationship. And I've seen people, I mean, there's one particular follower, his name is Brian Krager. He's been, a fan and a follower of my work for the longest time. And he was actually at a mastermind in New York that I did, I think it was in 2013. Mm-hmm. The next year we held the first tropical think tank here in the Philippines. He traveled over from New York and we were sitting on a boat. We were about to go snorkeling and we were sitting on a boat with everybody, all the attendees and speakers and everything. And we were going out to where we were going to kind of anchor and jump in. And he showed me on his phone his resignation letter because he'd been working on his side hustle for about a year and a half. And he showed me his resignation letter and a picture of himself sitting on the beach attached to that email. And he said to me, I wanted to send this with you watching. And he hit the send button. And he said, it's because of you and what I learned from you last year in New York that's enabled me to make this decision. And fast forward now, 4 or 5 years later, Brian's making multi-million-dollar revenue across a number of different industries with what he's doing as a consultant and as a product developer and a lot of other stuff that he's got going as well. And when you have those kind of, and here's the thing, I've got hundreds of Brians, hundreds, literally, that I know of. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people that I'm not aware of. And that's the fuel that keeps me going every single day.
And that's phenomenal, and it's one of those things that I always like when people can name their clients and actually know both the successful and the people who are still working at it. Because when you know people by name, it means that, actually people really do buy from people. You buy into them just as much as they buy into you. And I think that's one of the things that I really resonated with you last year about. But on the subject of Youpreneur, because obviously I can't get away from it, I am literally obsessed. And, the fact that I'm speaking on the stage, not rapping, sadly, but speaking on the stage this year is a huge deal for me. And I know that there are a ton of people who are listening to the podcast who have already bought their tickets. Yay, you people. Go you. You are
Woohoo.
making
Woohoo.
waves. But for those of you who haven't bought a ticket yet, I just want to kind of let you know what Youpreneur is about and how it's a different kind of event, and how it's not the event where you're going to go and somebody's going to pitch to you in the back corner after it's all done and dusted and be like, yeah, the talk I just gave, it was kind of cool, but if you pay me $3,000, I'm going to do something else that's going to be brilliant. So I just want to kind of put it to you, Chris. Why is Youpreneur different? What makes it different? And specifically, what makes the relationships that you build at Youpreneur different to the ones that you would build just hanging out in a Facebook group all day?
Well, okay. I mean, don't get me started on Facebook. Good gosh. I know. Look, very honestly, I love Facebook for the adverts. As a business owner, they're great. Everything else, wasted time as far as I'm concerned. But that's just one man's opinion. It's like, for example, on the Facebook groups, okay? You go in and you're looking to solve a particular problem. You're looking for help on a particular thing. You've got a couple of options. You can either, one, post a quick question, which will probably, for most good-sized groups, you might get a handful or two of replies. If not, it'll just be completely ignored. Or you can go to the search function and type in something and just go down a rabbit hole for an hour with all the distractions in the world, right? But when you come to an event like the Youpreneur Summit, you know that you are surrounded with people that have been there, done that, and get it. They understand you and the journey that you're on as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a sales professional, whatever the case may be. And they can empathize with the struggles that you actually go through on a daily basis. They can hold your hand and help you through some of those things. They can inspire you, and they can be, putting themselves in the position where you can be inspired by what they're doing and what they're all about and how you can get up to that level or whatever the case may be. And you were there, Jessica. I mean, there's no egos in that audience. And I'll tell you why there aren't any, because I bloody well tell them they can't be. Right? So right at the top of the show, I don't know whether you remember or not, I said, I don't care if you're making $1 million or if you're just starting out. There's somebody in this room that can help you. So be open to discussions. Don't stand on a high horse. In fact, actually, let the horse run away right now. We're all on the same level footing. We're all here. We're all foot soldiers, ready and waiting to go to battle to build our businesses in smart, savvy manner. And we're here to help each other, plain simple. And that's exactly what the Youpreneur Summit is about. It's about learning. It's about networking. It's about masterminding. And it's about planning. And if you come with that open-minded attitude to learn from the best and mastermind with the rest, then that's what it's all about.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And we are seeing some incredible people at Youpreneur this year. I mean, everyone who's listened to my episodes last year knows, the standard of people on the stage last year was phenomenal. But this year, I mean, personally, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see Jay Baer. I'm also really excited to see his suits. Like I've seen a few of his keynote talks online, and they are almost jazzier than your waistcoat. So I'm excited to see the fashion dynamic this year.
I've set Jay, I guess, a challenge. I told him I want to see him in a Union Jack suit, head to toe. I don't know whether he'll invest the $4,000 or whatever it costs to get a custom-made suit from his tailor. I know his tailor actually turns down more business than he accepts. Like, he's very finicky, apparently, his tailor. And so I don't know whether he'll invest the cash involved, but we'll see. We'll see. At the very least, I believe he'll have Union Jack socks on or something like that. But yeah, his suits are great.
They are jazzy. So we're going to have Jay Baer there, which is going to be amazing. We've got Roger Edwards. We've got Carrie Wilkerson. These are all people that I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be so exciting. So, if you haven't made your decision to come to Youpreneur yet, please email me and ask me my honest opinion. I'm happy to talk about it all day long and tell you why you should come, or if it's not right for you, I'm happy to tell you that too, although I highly doubt that's going to be the case. It's basically great and everyone should go. And one of the things that I said to Chris when you actually got in contact with me and asked me if I wanted to speak was, I've already bought my ticket. I've already bought my ticket. I was coming regardless. It didn't make any difference to me. I bought my ticket as soon as we walked out of the room. I think it was on the Sunday of last year. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm ready to buy my ticket for next year. I want to be here. I want to be in this room of people. I want to build these relationships again. I want to, be in the bar with people that can talk about all the stuff we learn about all day, that don't make me feel like a freak for wanting to talk about my business for hours on end. So if you haven't grabbed your ticket yet, please make sure you at least go and check it out. Because honestly, like I say, I would have been there regardless of whether I was speaking or not. And for me, that's kind of the testament that I put aside for things that actually have been a huge game changer in my business. So, make sure you're heading over to youpreneur to check out those tickets. And I guess final thing from you, Chris, what is it that you're expecting people to take away from Youpreneur this year?
Game changing. I mean, you got to change up the game on a regular basis. I consistently look back on my businesses almost on a quarterly basis and see what we've done, what we've not done, what's worked, what hasn't. And I mean, the one thing for me is I want to change my game on a very, very consistent basis. When we held the summit for the first time last year, we were saying outright, like I was pretty cocky. I got to be honest with you. I mean, I was streaming on social for months and months before the event saying, you have to be there. I'm going to change the game for UK business events. I'm going to change the game. Just turn up and find out why and how. And they did, and I did. A ton of people have told me, you delivered on the promise. You're absolutely right. There's never been an event like this ever before in the UK. And so I want to do that again. And for me, the biggest thing is that people that walk away and they take action and they change their own games for the better, obviously. I mean, there's no point in going to an event and learning and networking and planning unless you walk away and start taking action. Like, that's the number one way to get my respect and to get my admiration, is to show me what you learned and what you did with it. And if you do that, then we're going to be the best of friends.
I love it. So if you haven't got your ticket yet for Youpreneur, and if you do want to get, a glimpse of Chris's jazzy waistcoat, which hopefully he'll wear this year, or, you want to come up and give me a hug and wish me luck before I go on stage and hopefully don't trip over my heels, or, make a general Jess-ism on the day, please make sure that you go over to youpreneur.summit.com and check that out. Check out the amazing speakers who are going to be there. And of course, the video from last year, which is pretty exceptional. I mean, I'm not actually in it, which I'm surprised by, but I guess maybe that's because my mouth was hanging open in a kind of unattractive way most of the weekend. So maybe that's why I didn't get over that. And obviously, if you haven't already, make sure you go and check out Chris's podcast over at Youpreneur FM. Those episodes over there are absolutely incredible, and he really does interview some amazing people. There are some incredible episodes actually recently around blogging, around the GDPR. I'm going to call it the scandal or apocalypse. I don't know. You can choose. So there's some great episodes on that as well. The GDPR thing has been kicking everyone's ass, to be fair.
It has. It has. It absolutely has. You're absolutely right. And really for no real reason other than obviously for continuing to, do things in the right manner. From the first instance of it coming into my life, I looked at it as a positive. I reckon probably I was in a room of 10, I would have been the only one that felt like that. But now hopefully many people are starting to feel the same way.
I think it's great. I mean, to me, it's kind of like the online dating sites, right? I met my boyfriend on an online dating site. I tell people this all the time. Not sure that he enjoys that, but we'll roll with it. And I always used to get all these weird messages from people I was like, we're not going to gel. And you didn't really want to just put them in the spam folder because that was rude. So I was one of those nice people that would reply with a kind of, please don't contact me again because I don't think we get along. Thanks though, this was great kind of message. And actually it was really awkward when they would keep coming back. And I don't think that I am Kate Moss by any standards. So I just assumed that it was something to do with my naturally sunny personality. And then my now boyfriend did actually tell me that when you respond, people think that you still like them or that you're playing hard to get.
Right.
That's how GDPR feels to me. I was like, okay, cool. This is a chance for me to not be that person who is playing hard to get. I don't have to be in your inbox. If you don't want me there, that's cool. I will just leave. I'm not going to kind of hound you about it 3 dates after.
Yeah, and from a business owner perspective, I mean, why would you want somebody on your list unless they're interested to hear from you anyway? Exactly. I mean, that's really what it comes down to for me.
Exactly. ROI, people. All about the ROI. Well, thank you so much. Honestly, today has been amazing. I'm very, very excited about Youpreneur. I can't wait to see all of the speakers this year. I can't wait to take out my notebook. And obviously, I've seen the Youpreneur notebooks before, so I'm very, very excited about that too. If you do want to get in contact with Chris, please make sure you go over to his website, chrisducker.com, check out his podcast, Youpreneur FM. And like I say, if you haven't picked up your tickets yet for Youpreneur, please make sure you go over to youpreneursummit.com and check out the video, the testimonials, and obviously the speakers there as well, because I would love to see that, and I know Chris would too.
It's going to be great. I cannot wait to introduce you as well to the crowd. It's going to be a real pleasure.
Well, my dotties are going to be there, apparently with T-shirts and signs. So we'll see how it goes.
I want to see as many of them there as we can get.
Exactly. All right, guys, we will see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining. If you do want to grab a subscription on iTunes, please make sure you hit the download button so you don't miss another episode. And I'll see you back on Monday for a deep dive training.